What I mean, this is your boy Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders special. It's one of those GeekFest specials, your number 3 of this year. Because yes, Bill is just picking up just the hottest movies across the industry of independent filmmaking. Let me tell you, and today we have a wonderful guest. But before I do that, I'm gonna really bag a bit. I am humbled. I am honored. You know what I mean? I am beside myself here that I finally got to meet one of my amazing crusaders. I got to see his face finally. And he's going to join us here to talk about his particular fan that we all know him, we all love him. He's across the social sharing his joint. My man, Mr. Jeffrey Ziggy, baby. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Al. How are you? How are things going for you?
I'm doing awesome, and I'm so happy, fellow crusader, to finally see that glow in your face, if you will. And we're gonna rock out today. I can't wait. We're gonna give them the web by because today we're talking about something you love dearly. I mean, my man, as you see the name below, let me tell you, my man just did a dope short fan film, not related to Disney, Marvel, all right, folks, all right? Put that shit out the way. It is fire. It is dope. This man is a producer, a writer, a director. He got this dope flick called Star Wars Rendezvous, currently traveling on the GeekFest Film Festival. Let me introduce the future legend here. Because listen, if Disney don't pick him up right now for the next Star Wars type of shows, they are nuts. The one, the only Brent Peterson, baby. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm rocking.
Happy to be here.
I'm happy. I'm happy to have you. Listen, I've only just dived in recently, not too long ago, if you will, into real Star Wars fandom and understanding the stories, and this particular film reminded me of what has become my favorite. I don't know how Ziggy going to feel about my comment, but, definitely we'll talk about that in a little bit of what, for me, this reminds me of. But before we get into that, and Ziggy starts diving into it with his geekdom of the Star Wars Brent, let us know where you're originally from and what was the actually first thing in all of fandom that you actually ever fell in love with.
Well, that's easy. That's the easy question. So I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the first thing I fell in love with was A New Hope. I saw it in the theater with my father when I was 4 years old, and that was it for me.
That was it. That was it.
That was it. I was hooked.
Wonderful. And in your fandom, when you're alone growing up in your town, with your geekiness, was it kept within the family, or did you find a tribe, if you will?
Oh, there's always a tribe with Star Wars. There's so many fans out there, man. They're everywhere and around the world. So everywhere you look, you come into someone who's a Star Wars fan.
What was it about Star Wars that sort of captured your imagination and held your imagination all these years?
I mean, you talk about the first shot in the first shot with the crawl going out, and then that huge spaceship coming in right over your head, chasing the other one, and you're sold. That was it for me. I had only seen like Bambi or something at that point in time on the big screen, and this just blew my socks off. And then it continued with Empire, Return of the Jedi, and then all the way to today.
So, other than the intro, and there's a big spaceship, as you watch this film, was there anything that stood out to you? Also, I mean, what got you so involved, if you were in the world of it, outside of just the ship and the letters? You know what I mean?
Well, it was the story. It's the hero's journey. Everyone discusses the hero's journey, and that it's just what it resonates with human beings. We live our own hero's journey and have our own stories. And as a 4-year-old, I watched it and I was impressed by not just the spectacle, but the characters and the arc of the characters. And I remember when I was 4, I went home and I'd only seen it once, and I got my crayons and my papers out and I started just drawing. And these stick figures of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and all the characters. And I got like 70, I think it was like 70 something pages of kid art. And I couldn't write then yet, so I dictated to my mother, and I told her all about Darth Vader and the lightsabers, and she wrote word for word on each page what the story was. And we put it all together, and my father found it, and I still have that today. It was a story that really took off in my mind.
What was your relationship with the Clone Wars series and the Rebels series? Were you watching it from the beginning, or did you just get into that more recently?
Clone Wars, it was out for a couple, at least maybe three or four seasons before I started watching it, and I just, I thought it was a kid's show. I didn't have cable or anything, so finally it became available on some. And I started just watching it, and I was like, wow, this is actually, they're dealing with some grown-up issues here. This is not just a kid's show. This is pretty deep. Some of these episodes are pretty deep and really take you into the mythology, and it grabbed me. And so when I wrote Rendezvous, I knew that I wanted to take off from there.
But how crazy is it, right? That we as grown up sometimes want to dismiss the animation. But then, we happen to catch an episode, we like get so intrigued, like, oh shit. I mean, like, Ziggy, I know you're a big fan, and now we got Brent, but I got to ask you too, because you are an enthusiast of this. What hooked you?
Myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately I've been a fan of stories all my life, and there's no better stories in fiction. I think it's just one of those things where, me, I'm a fan of it all. Like the Marvel and the DC and all the every type of fiction that's out there. But there's just something about the storytelling and the storytelling style, and there's a rhythm to it, right? George Lucas has a rhythm to the way he tells stories, and Brent clearly understands that rhythm, right? I mean, there is a way that he opens things. There is a way that the action proceeds. There's a way that the heroes and villains arrive. All of these things have a certain beat to it. And George Lucas talks about this in some of the things you see behind the scenes where there's almost a sound to the way that he works. So that's really the beauty of Star Wars, is not just visual, it's also the sound and the way that he carries that through.
All right. So before we dig in any further, because Ziggy made it sound so juicy now. Whereby, let me present to you this wonderful trailer. All right. Before we start digging in further into this story, what it reminds me of, and I know Ziggy got questions, so I can't wait. Check it out, folks.
Kill the girl. Kill all who stand in your way.
15 more clicks to the rendezvous.
Who are we supposed to meet anyway?
Someone who can protect her better than we can.
Got to get to better cover.
At least I die knowing I was making a difference.
Your anger makes you stronger, but not strong enough.
Hey, Ugly, pick on someone your own size.
Such a noble effort.
Noble. That is beyond noble. That is a fire effort. Like, woo! Folks, you guys do not know what you guys are in store for if you guys have not yet watched this. Now, before Ziggy, I know Ziggy's dying. His lips there are shaking. I gotta ask. Hold on. All I'll say is what it reminds me of is one of my favorite Star Wars film. I don't know how you guys. Rogue One. Like, I watched the past stuff. I was okay with it, and I didn't watch it until I was older. But when Rogue One came out, that effing story, holy smokes! And this for me is right on that level. Like, holy smokes, bro.
Rogue One was a major inspiration for this piece specifically. I wanted to go with that kind of look, that feeling. Just that was the feature film that really kind of I modeled it after.
This is why I love it. This is why I love it. Jesus, I mean, it's fun. Your cast is amazing. The action sequences, the scenery. I mean, you know what? Though, let me like just celebrate this. Let's get into questions. And I know Ziggy right there. He definitely got some because that's my Star Wars wizard, over folks. If y'all don't believe it, go check out comiccrusaders.shop right now and check out all his amazing reviews. You're gonna see. My man knows what he's talking about. Let's get into it, Ziggy.
So, the first thing I was really curious about is choosing this point in time. I think obviously with Star Wars, you've got a timeline, you've got different points in the timeline you can choose. And of course, this was a very specific time period based on the visuals that you used and the signals that you used. Where are we in time, and what made you choose that point?
I think this takes place just a couple years maybe after season 7 of the Clone Wars wraps things up with Ahsoka and Maul and Order 66, and all that happens. I actually wrote this, gosh, it must have been like 4 or 5 years ago now. So it's before all the Disney Plus shows, like for instance, Obi-Wan, that covers that time frame. And I was and of course the Jedi video games. Survivors, the most recent one, but these kind of cover that time frame. But I was fascinated with, I thought Jedi's scattering and hiding under rocks is an interesting time period, and being hunted by the Empire and the Inquisitors. There's got to be a story I could tell about some kind of young Force sensitive that's being hunted and has to survive this. And that's where the seed of the story came together. And I really wanted to, I wanted to depict Darth Maul and Ahsoka, and so they folded in there too, because I'm a long-term fan of Maul as a character, and in fact I'm a member of the 501st Legion, and Maul is one of my costumes.
Have I seen you at the convention?
Maybe so. And I had that going for me already. Look at that.
Right.
Just need some prosthetics here.
I wear hats just because I don't comb my hair. I mean.
And to cap that off, the icing on that was my youngest son was a huge Darth Maul fan as well, prior to his death from cancer. And so that sealed the deal for me. I felt like I needed to be Maul in this film for him. And the film's, if you watch all the way to the end and see the credits, it's dedicated to my son, Stephen. He passed away when he was 7 years old.
I saw that. First of all, my condolences. My God, I cannot imagine as a parent myself. Wow. Yeah. And secondly, holy smokes, you killed it as Darth.
So I got a lot of heart came into that. Because of Stephen. I had to do it.
Right. Well, you brought the heart to the screen. There's no question about that. This was all up there for him and for the fans as well. It's great.
Thank you.
So talk to us about that opening shot. I've never seen the way that you flip things in that opening shot, right? You have the classic George Lucas opening, but then obviously you did something different there. Talk through how you made that and what was the decision making there.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about that shot actually, and I'm kind of surprised because I don't know, I felt like it needed something to flip the table, it just was intuitive to me to start with the ship coming towards the planet, but then everything has to turn on its head here. We have to do something new and different, and it just came about. It was just like the only way I think the shot could have gone for me.
And what was your process in terms of establishing the effects and the way that you brought in the effects? What were the skills that you brought to that? Where did this all come from?
I have a long history of doing visual effects myself, not ILM level by any means. I'm a generalist, and I know they have a lot of generalists working in ILM now. It's kind of a trend, but I also have a little bit of some colleagues that also do it, and so I pulled together myself and a couple buddies who do visual effects, and I knew we could pull this off, and we just kind of chipped away at it it was a long post-production process because it was just the three of us working whenever we had the chance between real paid jobs, and we're all filmmakers, we're in the business.
So let me ask you here: how important is fan feedback to you? And did you make any adjustments to the film based on audience reactions during production or post production?
No, we stuck pretty close to the script.
Wonderful.
As written. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it really had that rhythm to it in the way that you started things off. Obviously, you start things off quieter and you build up to that big battle. And what was the thought process in using these two relative unknown characters to start with, and sort of that lone man and cub kind of dynamic that you're doing with the child that they're taking care of?
Well, I had to build that character. The relationships are really important to this story. And I don't know how many spoilers you want here, but
yeah,
I mean, that's on you, baby. I mean, come on.
They have to have some weight as characters. They have to have some interest and some intrigue, and the relationship has to build to a certain point before you unleash, what happens to them, and take it into the next gear.
Was there a thought about
Raise the
starting the
stakes.
story further back at some point? You come into it at a very specific time point as they're arriving on, I believe, Tatooine, correct? Is that?
It could be.
It could be.
Hey, it could be.
So you arrive at that time period right when where they've just kind of landed on this planet, crashed onto this planet. What was there any thought about going further back to establish these characters a bit more?
Well, when you write, there's always a beginning of a story, but there's always backstory. And I never anticipated or thought I needed to go back and tell that story, but it is there. There is a clear backstory with a lot of detail. I didn't ever write it out. And I talked to my actors about it a little bit, just so they knew where they were coming from. But I think that lends to the believability of the plot and the story. You can't just start from nothing. You have to start somewhere.
I saw that beautiful poster. I mean, look at that amazing cast. Look, this looks like, dude. I mean, the design, everything, legit, son, legit.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that cast. Tell us a little bit about the people that are involved on the screen, and obviously yourself included.
Well, the cast came together when I was writing. I would think about, what actors could really pull off this character on screen, and so I kind of went back to a lot of the short films and things that I'd shot and worked with actors on, and each of these actors started coming in to play. For instance, the little girl, she had been the lead actor in my previous short film, Variant U, and when I had posted on social media that I was going to do a Star Wars fan film, and her mother reached out immediately to me and said, "Hey, do you need a little girl to cast?" I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I do, and I'd love to see her audition for this role." And she did, and she knocked it out of the park, and so she was cast. The other actors as well, I'd worked with them before. I knew that they could bring to the screen, and I did do some auditions for. But I kind of knew where I wanted to go, and I knew in our local film community who could pull it off.
I dig it. And how did you get involved with GeekFest to put this baby out?
I just applied online through Film Freeway, found them, thought that's a nice concept, a traveling film festival to all the cons, and I thought that this is a perfect match. As a film, a fan film, you are limited to where you can submit your film for contests and festivals. Because you don't own the rights. A lot of festivals require that you own the rights to the film, that it's original, and this was a perfect fit. So it's like no brainer.
And hold on, is this your first dive into the Star Wars universe as a writer, director, producer?
Yes, this is my very first fan film of any kind.
Oh, hey, look at that! Shit, go ahead, Zig.
So diving into the battle, the main core of the battle and what was involved there, and obviously this involves spoilers, but ultimately speaking, you get really what the fans of Solo, the Solo film, have wanted for so long in terms of seeing Darth Maul at a certain time with a certain mindset in a certain situation. What was the decision to use him in this way? And was it just a decision based on your love of the character, or was there anything else that went into that?
Well, going back to telling the story of a Force-sensitive hiding from the Empire, and wanting to bring Maul and Ahsoka into that mix, I just felt like, he's running his crime syndicate during this time period. Would he makes a buck? Yeah, maybe. And so it was feasible to me that he would enter the story hiring bounty hunters to track down sensitives to either kill them, to get the bounty that were on their heads. He doesn't care as long as he's going to further his objectives, which are power and to unravel the Empire in some way, to defeat the Emperor. And whether he's working for the Emperor or not, if he's making a buck, he can further his own objectives that way.
And what the fans will love, and what is so great are the littler details. He's wearing the little black sun, right? So right away, you set up so much in terms of where we are, when we are, and what his thought process is at this point, just with that alone. That's just absolutely.
Yeah. I was really fortunate to have those photos that are out there for the Solo costume that was developed for his cameo in the Solo film. And we heavily relied on those. I worked hand in hand with my wardrobe person to create that costume based on those images.
Yeah, I've got to say, any fan of Solo who wants to see Solo 2 absolutely needs to see this film, because this is just right along that vein in terms of what we want to see going forward with Solo 2 or Solo 2 series.
I even threw in, he's on the RISCOM with Kira, talking to her and getting a plan in motion using her as, an assistant. Now, Ahsoka's costume, I felt like, she wasn't. Ahsoka's series hadn't come out by this time. It was in production, and there were no set leaks. In fact, we had a set leak that everyone thought we were the Ahsoka show, and that was a fun little.
Oh, really?
That happened.
Funny.
It hit the web fast.
And listen,
furious.
Any stuff is good marketing that works like that. So great.
Tell us a little bit about that experience of being sort of confused for Disney proper.
Yeah. Well, so we were out there. We shot most of the film at a place called San. It's a red rock slot canyon down by Socorro, New Mexico, about an hour south of Albuquerque, and beautiful, beautiful place. And we shot both in November and then in April when it warmed back up after the snow and stuff. Because once we shot in November without snow, it snowed and it was really cold, and we couldn't go back until the spring when conditions were similar. Well, we were shooting there in April, and I didn't think we were early season, so it was still chilly, and there weren't very many campers, hikers. I didn't think there would be, but a number of them came through, and we're a fan film, we're friendly. We didn't have, we had a permit, but it was not exclusive. So we had to let anyone that walked through come through the area. And there's only one way in, one way out. Oh, it's a canyon. And, we posed with people, with hikers, and we let them watch the scenes we were shooting. And we were shooting the Maul and Ahsoka fight scene at that point in time. And someone took a photo, and, we let them, but they posted it. Posted it on Reddit. And it was picked up by everybody. And no one knew what was going on until I saw it. Like someone showed me a post or an article or something. Like it was like a week later. I didn't have any idea this was going on.
Oh shit! You're completely lost. Like what the hell? You're doing your thing. Who cares? I love this.
And so it was so mind blowing that we were thought to be like the real thing.
You kind of did a better job than they did in a lot of ways.
Well, that's very high compliment.
Ziggy, don't start that stuff, man. But you know what? No. But it's true. It's true.
we're trying to make connections here between them. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's true. It's absolutely true. Though.
So
Well, we
what,
had a
you know,
very limited budget, obviously. We don't have millions of bucks here. There's
yeah,
not
but
even.
I think you showed that you
yeah.
don't need it, right? I mean, that's great.
We did the
So-
best we could.
That's the
speaking of
conversation
best
I
we
have.
could, the moment that, of course, everyone absolutely needs to see for themselves is the moment with Darth Maul, you know, pulling out his lightsaber and attempting to do the double lightsaber move, right? And obviously things
love
just
that.
don't go well. So
A little bit of humor there.
Say that again.
A little bit of humor there.
Oh, absolutely. But, you know, that's something that fans have been wondering, you know, why does that not happen more often? Why don't we see in a lightsaber duel that occurring? Because if you've got the Force, you know, why aren't we
Why
using
not?
it to full extent?
Yeah. That was something I felt like it had to put in because I'd had that thought, and I know others have, like you mentioned. It was like, and we're kind of we're kind of stepping around. We're beating around the bush here. We're not coming out and just giving a spoiler away, but it's in the trailer, so why not?
It's the Peterson verse right here, making their mark on the Star Wars mythos. Like Ziggy, for real. Again, like I said, I'm not the largest fan, but that scene had me smiling ear to ear. I said, "Oh snap!" And then like you guys were saying, I'm like, so if that's possible.
Well, it's possible in the Legends, right?
I'm seeing how many deaths could have been avoided.
I mean, it has to be possible. Yeah, I mean, it has to be.
Yeah. And we just come through a really tense moment, and it felt to me like we needed a little bit of a break. I felt like the audience, okay, they were on the edges of the seats, and something really awful just happened. A number of awful things, and we need a little bit of levity, a little light coming in, and it's like going back to the pacing and tone. We need a little bit of lightness coming back in, and that was how it just had to happen with the manipulation through the Force of Maul's lightsaber. Turns it on, she turns it off. He turns it on, she turns it off, faster and faster and faster until zzz, fries a circuit, and he doesn't have a lightsaber anymore.
And I love that. And yes, you are breaking hearts, Brent. How dare you? You know, just like Rogue One. You know, again, it's a heartbreaker of a film. You know, with all the protagonists. Oh my God, what are you doing to me? The Peterson verse, I think, needs to be definitely involved. Disney, you hearing me? You know,
there's got to be stakes.
Have a hit. This is the guy.
They're huge stakes, and you know, part of the stakes is just the Mandalorian, right? So you have this Mandalorian, this incredible warrior, and you know, you made a decision in terms of having him lose this battle in a very definitive way. What was the thinking about using a Mandalorian here? What was the thinking about having the battle go the way that it did? Because I think there's going to be some controversy of the fact that this guy got beat pretty clearly.
Well, I love the Mandalorian. And it felt like they're leaders, they're hardened warriors. A Mandalorian was the clear leader of this, you know, this group, this
a Suicide Squad of DC Comics.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah. It was he was a clear leader, and also there's a lot of cosplayers who have the costumes, and you know, I didn't have the budget to build from scratch. Although I started that path, and it started getting really expensive, and I started looking for people who had the costumes, and I found one who wanted to be in the film, and he had a really nice, unique. He was kind of part of the Mando Mercs group, and he stepped in as the actor as well, even though he had no experience and no stunt or fight training either. So that's where my fight coordinator came in and really helped make that happen. Yeah. Funny thing was, the coloring of his armor was really close to Boba Fett's. And although he's got different things going on, I didn't want the casual viewer to mistake him for Boba Fett. And so instead of painting his armor, repainting all of that and re-stressing it and weathering it, we had to alter the colors in post-production from that green to more of a bluish green.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Because you know, at first, you know, first look, you think that, but then as they started looking, oh shit, no, it's not him. All right, it's another Mando. You know, within
had
that.
couldn't do away with canon. Had to stick to canon. Boba Fett's still alive somehow.
Yeah, somehow.
So
Yes. So the other choice was, and we don't see this enough, is putting that shield on the gun was a huge move. That was a huge move from a storytelling perspective. Who came up with that? What was the thought behind that?
Hey, I'm a Battlefront player.
There you go.
I wanted to see some type of shield be part of the film, and they do it. It's in Rebels, they got the Mandalorians have those little energy shields, and I thought, where's the best place to put that for someone who isn't a Mandalorian? On the front of a gun, just like a turret, right? So that just came about there, and I 3D printed the weapon and did all the electronics myself, and had to watch out when that energy shield went off that I didn't cut my fingers off.
Wait a minute. Yeah, don't tell the U.S. government you just created that. Oh my gosh, folks, he's only kidding. Don't believe it. All right, we'll talk later on, bro. I need one of those. It's not real, folks.
and
you got me.
You also gave us the Ahsoka Maul rematch that we want to see. This was deep down exactly what fans want to see on the live action front. So what was the decision to bring Ahsoka in at that moment, where she isn't? What was her mindset at this point in time from your perspective?
Well, I knew I wanted to bring Maul in, as I mentioned, because of that whole thing, the personal connection to Maul. And after watching the season 7 finale of the Clone Wars, I knew Ahsoka. That is such an interesting relationship that those two characters have. They're both outcasts of their orders. They're both, they've got the same thing going. I thought, how interesting is it to pair those together in an adversarial role, but with so much common thread there, so much commonality between those two. That's going to be fun to play with and write to. And I knew that Ahsoka was all for children, for Force-sensitive kids, and I felt like she needs to be the rendezvous point of contact. Even though they don't know where they're going at first, they don't know who they're meeting. She's the one. She's the one that can protect this child better than anyone else can, and she would do it. So that's where she came in, and I wanted to do that rematch, just as you say. It is a rematch from, going forward from the Clone Wars series season 7 finale. Right. Everyone wants to see that rematch, and I thought I have to do that and try and do it justice.
I love this because you're playing with our emotions and our feelings. So with that, like, what message or emotions do you hope that viewers will take away from watching Star Wars Rendezvous? Because look how you're touring us. You have this man with a million questions here and just loving what you did. Better than what does it just, folks. We're not lying. Comic Crusaders seal of approval.
Well, the takeaway for me, the main theme is one of family and connections and bonds. The little girl, Rila is her character's name. She's the center of the story. Everything orbits around her. And she loses one set of parents in the backstory. Maybe she loses another set but she gains family, and everyone wants family, someone to care for them, someone to love them, someone to connect with. And each of the characters has a different reason for that family. Even Maul has a need for family, and wants this little girl, when he finds out who she is, and there's some spoilers there, but it all comes back to family for me.
Talk about understanding what Star Wars is all about. That's great. Absolutely.
I'm digging this. So let me ask you here, how do you see then the landscape of indie filmmaking evolving, especially in terms of fan films and creative projects like yours? Because I mean, you smashed it here. What you did here is really fun, and again, fits so well within the narrative. Yes, it's only a fan film, folks, made for fun. You know what I mean? It's not monetary. He did this out of love. Right. So I want to point that out again clearly. He doesn't have to. I'll tell you guys what it is, because that's what it is. You know what I mean? And it's a beautiful project done for us as fans. So what do you see popping off, I'm
seeing so many fan films come out. especially Star Wars fan films. When I started this journey, there were a lot of fan films, but not as many as there are now. It's really
What year was this?
kind of popular.
Specifically,
Gosh, this was I'm terrible with year numbers, but it took 3 years to make the film from beginning to end, and we released it this last fall. So we count back from there.
Perseverance, huh?
Years. A lot of tough. Yeah.
And I love the concept of fan filmmaking as an independent. And there's a bunch of boxes it checked for me. Number one, it gets you experience, you know. Number two, it gets you exposure. You have a built-in audience. It's out there for everyone to see, and you're going to get that film seen by more people than you get any other thing that you're going to make on your own. Number three, it's fun. You're invested in the story and the subject and the IP, right? You're a fan. You're a hardened fan, and it's just something you're called to do. And in my case, I just had to make it. I had to tell this story. I didn't have any other options.
The Peterson verse and his soul cannot withhold the passion of Star Wars, and he had to let it burst. That's what it is. I'm doing it. So, all right. So,
there's more.
You know
this.
Yeah.
I hope there's more. Now, a lot of people ask me, "Is there a sequel?" Because the film leaves open-ended. Is there going to be a sequel? Well, I do have a story, and at first I didn't. It was just kind of loose, But I can tell you right now, just a couple of weeks ago, I was on a road trip. And you know how you drive in, you got the open road, and your mind just goes. It came to me, and I've now written part 2 and part 3.
Oh, damn.
A 3-part story.
In the middle of the desert and shit, and just started writing like a madman.
It connects the Clone Wars to Rebels.
Oh, dope.
Fills in that gap for Maul and for Ahsoka.
Oh,
love it.
So I hope I can make it. It's all about finding funds, and that's the most difficult part of making a fan film, because you can't legally crowdfund. I know some other films have done that, but as far as I know, it's not legal. So it'll be about finding the funds personally. We'll have to find out.
You can see donations, a whole GoFundMe. Oh my God, we need this film, folks. Let's go. Now I think about it. Well, so, are you going to be making any appearances anywhere? Like, you know, I know because GeekFest is touring, they're out there, they're doing their thing. Are you going to be making an appearance yourself at any one of the conventions that they will be, you know, showcasing the film at?
I would love to. I don't know where it's going to be screening first. I know it's going to have several stops, but I'm waiting to hear where it's going and if I can make it. I would love to. I would love to go.
Yeah, we'd definitely love to see you in person, you know, and see what else is popping. I mean, and lastly, you know, well, not even lastly, Ziggy, anything else on your mind before we go?
You know, in terms of a sequel, I just want to see the development of a Night Sister Jedi. That's incredible. You know, I mean, that's just a great idea, and just seeing the development of that, hopefully as part of this, would be insane. Something we've all wanted to see. That's great.
Well, you're right. It is her story. It all swirls around her. So she's the arc of that whole story. Yeah.
Awesome. The Peterson verse corner of the Star Wars universe. I love it. So lastly, what advice would you give to any aspiring filmmakers, particularly those who are passionate about creating, you know, content within established franchises like Star Wars?
Find a story you need to tell. Yeah, it starts with story. You can't tell just an action piece. People don't connect. You need a story that has heart and soul, and that you have to tell personally. And once you have that piece, you can make it happen.
See, you hear this? This man is doing wonderful things, folks. He's got fire projects. You know where you can check them out? Easy peasy. All you got to do is go to antigravityfilms.com. Now, that's actually the very last. Tell us a bit about what is anti-gravity. I mean, and do you also offer services? Well, what's popping here?
I do. I own my own production company. It's a small company. It's just me. I freelance through it, but I also do full productions. And so, you know, we like to make the impossible happen. It's anti-gravity, man.
There you go. And listen, if you once you see this film, you're gonna see what he means by that. Because this is absolute fire. Now, again, Ziggy, my Star Wars whiz, when I mentioned it, he peeped it. He goes, "I must." He had to, and I finally got to meet him. Thank you, Brent.
It was worth it. It was a great film. Beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. And folks, not just that, you know, check out my man Ziggy. You know, he's got his stuff going on, his Twitterverse. He's a big Star Wars fan, and also check out his reviews on comiccrusaders.shop. I mean, he got a plethora of them, real deal, real insightful, constructive reviews. Not like the jokes on some of those sites, all right? And we don't get paid for our reviews, so it's real, all right? Like I said, and with that again, Brent, thank you, Ziggy, thank you to my Crusaders familia. Thank you for tuning in. Hasta la próxima. Wepa!